What once looked like one of Love and Hip Hop's strongest marriages is now hanging by a thread. Yandy and Mendeecees, the power couple who've weathered prison time. Public scandals and endless rumors are suddenly crumbling behind the scenes. Insiders say the tension has reached a breaking point. And the way they've been avoiding each other on set has everyone whispering that a split might be closer than anyone expected. From the outside, Yandy Smith and Mendeecees Harris have always looked unshakable. A love and hip-hop power couple who survived prison time, public scrutiny, and endless drama to stay together. But lately, something has shifted. The smiles have faded. The warmth has cooled. And behind the cameras, those who know them best are quietly admitting what fans have only been speculating. Yandy and Mendeecees might be heading toward a breakup. The tension started subtly, like tiny cracks in a glass window, hardly noticeable at first. They stopped posting about each other on social media, even during major milestones. Birthdays went by without public messages, where Yandy once flooded her feed with heartfelt captions about her husband. Now her posts were strictly business, brand deals, activism, and appearances. Fans immediately noticed, "Where's Mendeecees?" One follower commented under a recent post, "You used to never stop talking about him." Yandy didn't reply. But that silence spoke volumes. Behind the scenes, production sources say their on-set energy had grown cold. They were still showing up, still filming, but rarely together. And when they were in the same room, the air between them was tense. A crew member revealed they used to laugh and joke all the time, but now they barely speak unless the cameras are rolling. And even then, it feels forced. The change became impossible to ignore during a recent group dinner scene. As castmates toasted two strong relationships, Mendeecees sat silently, barely glancing at Yandy, when someone jokingly asked him what the secret to their long-lasting marriage was. He just shrugged and said, "Patience." Yandy smiled politely, but her eyes darted down to her plate. That moment went viral on social media. Fans clipped it, zoomed in on Yandy's forced smile, and flooded the comments with concern. Some even claimed they saw her wiping a tear when the cameras cut. But what the public didn't see was what happened after the dinner wrapped. According to an insider, Yandy and Mendeecees got into a heated argument the moment they left the table. It wasn't loud enough for cameras to catch. But crew members nearby overheard snippets. "You always make me feel like I'm alone in this," Yandy allegedly told him, her voice tight with frustration. "You knew what this life was when you signed up," Mendeecees shot back. That fight was reportedly about more than just the show. It was about their entire dynamic, a dynamic that has been strained ever since Mendeecees came home from prison. For years, Yandy held their world together while he was away. She raised the kids, kept their businesses afloat, and fought relentlessly for his release. She became a symbol of loyalty, praised by fans for her strength and commitment. But when he returned, it wasn't the fairy tale reunion everyone expected. He came home a different man, one close friend confided. Prison changes people. He's quieter, more distant. And Yandy expected them to just pick up where they left off. But it hasn't been like that at all. Instead of bonding, began clashing, especially over roles within their family and business empire. Yandy wanted to keep expanding, staying in the spotlight, while Mendeecees reportedly craved a slower, more private life. That fundamental difference created a wedge neither of them seemed willing to close. And then came the rumors. Whispers began circulating that Mendeecees had been seen out late at night without Yandy, surrounded by people she didn't trust. Photos surfaced of him at private events, often with his phone flipped face down on the table and a carefully detached expression. Yandy, meanwhile, started traveling more for speaking engagements and brand partnerships, often alone. Fans began speculating that she was intentionally creating distance. "They're living separate lives now," one follower wrote. "She's everywhere, he's nowhere. It's like they're avoiding each other." Publicly, both tried to brush it off. In interviews, Yandy called the rumors ridiculous and insisted they were fine. Just busy building. Mendeecees offered vague statements about growth and focusing on family. But their body language told a different story. During a recent live panel, a moderator asked if they planned to renew their vows soon. Yandy laughed awkwardly and said, "Let's just make it through the year first." Mendeecees just stared straight ahead. The reaction from fans was swift. "They're done," one person tweeted. "You can feel the distance." Privately, things were even worse. According to sources, Yandy had been confiding in close friends that she felt unappreciated. Like all the sacrifices she made during his prison sentence had been forgotten. She feels like she gave everything to hold them together, and now that he's free, he's just emotionally checked out. One friend said. Mendeecees, on the other hand, reportedly told friends he felt controlled. Like Yandy was always trying to manage him instead of seeing who he'd become after prison. "She still treats me like I'm locked up," he allegedly said. "Like I can't make my own choices. I'm not the same person I was, but she doesn't get that." This fundamental disconnect has left them at a standstill. They're not officially separated, not yet, but they're living more like business partners than husband and wife. And it's starting to show. Even their children have reportedly noticed the tension. One heartbreaking moment caught on a hot mic had their son quietly asking a producer if his parents were mad at each other again. The producer tried to brush it off, but the audio leaked online and fans were crushed. For a couple who once symbolized resilience, the unraveling has been painful to watch. Yandy used to preach about loyalty and fighting for love no matter what, while Mendeecees once called her the only person who never gave up on me. Now they can barely stand to be in the same room without snapping at each other. The crew has begun quietly rearranging, shooting schedules to keep them apart whenever possible. Scenes they once would have filmed together are now being shot separately, with producers nervous about pushing them too far. It's like walking on eggshells around them. One production assistant admitted, any little thing could set them off. Fans who followed their love story from the beginning are now torn between hope and heartbreak. Some still believe they can find their way back to each other if they just slow down and reconnect. Others think that damage is too deep, that years of resentment have finally caught up with them. Either way, one thing is clear. Yandy and Mendeecees are standing on the edge, and one wrong move could send their marriage over the cliff. As the dust from their earlier arguments settled, Yandy and Mendeecees found themselves trapped in a heavy silence that seemed to stretch on forever. They were sitting across from each other in the living room, not saying a word, yet both lost in the noise of their thoughts. It was like they were standing on opposite ends of a collapsing bridge, watching the middle crumble, unsure who would be the first to make a move or if there was even anything left to save. For Yandy, the pain wasn't just about the arguments or the tension. It was about how distant Mendeecees had become. She remembered when he used to light up every time he walked through the door, when his phone would be put away just so he could focus on family dinners or bedtime stories. Now, it seemed like he was always distracted, his mind somewhere else. Scrolling through his phone late at night, responding with half-hearted nods when she spoke. It made her wonder if there was someone else on his mind or if she had simply stopped being enough. Mendeecees, on the other hand, felt trapped by expectations. Since coming home from prison, he had been trying to rebuild not just his career but also his identity. Everywhere he went, people had expectations. Be the provider. Be the solid man. Be the same person Yandy fell in love with. But the truth was, he wasn't the same. He had changed behind those walls, and now he struggled to fit back into a life that had moved forward without him. Yandy, in his mind, hadn't fully understood that shift. And her constant questions about their future made him feel like he was failing before he could even catch up. Their friends had started noticing too. Kendra had pulled Yandy aside at a recent cast event and said gently, "You look tired." Not just physically, but emotionally. Yandy had brushed it off with a forced smile. But inside, the words stung because they were true. She had been carrying the weight of their relationship on her shoulders, keeping up appearances, planning family outings, trying to hold on to a spark that felt like it was fading by the day. When they finally did talk again that evening, it was explosive. Yandy stood up, her voice trembling but firm. "You think I don't see it? You think I don't notice how far away you've gotten from us?" From me, Mendeecees rubbed his face with both hands, exhaling. I'm trying, Yandy. I'm trying to be everything at once. But you keep making it seem like I'm never enough. You don't even see what I'm going through. She froze at those words, because part of her knew he was right. She had been so focused on fixing the cracks that she hadn't taken a moment to ask what had caused them in the first place. But she was also hurting. And the fear of losing him made it hard to slow down and listen. I'm scared, she whispered finally, voice breaking. Scared that one day I'll wake up and you won't be here. Not just physically, but emotionally. That you'll decide this isn't worth it anymore. That vulnerability cut through the tension like a knife. Mendeecees looked up at her, and for the first time in weeks, there was a flicker of the man she fell in love with, the one who used to hold her when life got messy, instead of pulling away. I don't want to leave, he said softly, but I can't be the old me. I need you to accept who I am now. It was a pivotal moment, one where they could either start rebuilding or let it all fall apart. They decided to try therapy, something neither of them had ever seriously considered. It wasn't an instant fix, but it was a start. They sat side by side in that first session, awkward and guarded, but both silently hoping that it wasn't too late to fight for what they once had. Meanwhile, the world outside their bubble was buzzing with rumors. Social media was flooded with speculation about their relationship status. Every time Yandy posted a solo picture, comments flooded in, asking if they had broken up. Mendeecees' occasional absence from family photos only fueled the fire. Cast members whispered behind the scenes. Producers hinted at a shocking storyline, and even fans who once saw them as unbreakable were now questioning if they could make it. The pressure from the public only made their private struggles worse. Yandy hated the idea of strangers having a say in her marriage, while Mendeecees felt suffocated by the constant scrutiny. It was hard enough trying to rebuild trust with each other. Doing it with millions of eyes watching made it nearly impossible. And yet, somewhere in that chaos, they found small moments of connection, like the night they stayed up talking after therapy, laughing about old memories when they used to hustle together and dream about building an empire, or when their kids pulled them both into a messy pillow fight, and for a brief moment, the tension melted away and they were just a family again. But deep down, they knew they weren't out of the woods. The resentment hadn't fully gone away, and the fear of losing each other still lingered. Yandy worried that Mendeecees might one day decide the pressure was too much and walk away. Mendeecees worried that Yandy would never be able to accept the man he had become after everything he'd been through by the end of the second month of therapy. They had made progress, but the road ahead was still uncertain. Their love was still there, but it was buried under layers of hurt, miscommunication, and unspoken fears. Whether they could dig it out before it suffocated completely was the question that neither of them dared to ask out loud. The cracks were still there, but for the first time in a long time, they were at least standing on the same side, facing them together. Weeks passed, and the tension between Yandy and Mendeecees continued to simmer beneath the surface. Even as they pushed through therapy sessions and tried to keep things looking normal for their children and for the public, on the outside they seemed to be functioning, smiling at events, holding hands during interviews, showing up as a united front. But behind closed doors, the relationship felt like it was teetering on the edge of collapse. It wasn't just the arguments anymore. It was the silence between them, the kind of silence that didn't feel peaceful but heavy. Like unspoken words were choking the air out of the room. Yandy had stopped asking him where he was going when he left the house late at night, and Mendeecees had stopped explaining. That absence of curiosity scared her more than any argument ever had. It meant she was starting to detach, to protect herself from the pain she feared was coming. The final straw came on a night that was supposed to bring them together. It was their anniversary. Yandy had gone all out decorating the house with candles, cooking his favorite meal, even setting up a slideshow of old photos of them and the kids. She wanted to remind him of what they had built, to show him that there was still something worth saving. But Mendeecees came home late. He walked through the door with tired eyes, smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't his usual, and he didn't even notice the effort she had put in. He gave her a half-hearted hug, glanced at the table, and muttered, I'm not that hungry, before heading to the shower. Yandy stood there frozen, her hand still holding the serving spoon, her heart pounding in her chest. Something inside her cracked. She didn't say a word at first. She just walked into the bedroom, shut the door, and let the tears fall. When Mendeecees came out, she was sitting on the bed, arms crossed, the slideshow of their memories still playing faintly from the living room. "You don't want this anymore, do you?" she asked quietly. He looked startled, then defensive. "What are you talking about?" "You," she said, her voice trembling, but steady. "You're halfway gone already. I'm here begging for scraps of your attention while you're out. I don't even know where. You don't talk to me. You don't look at me. You don't try anymore." Mendeecees ran a hand over his face. "That's not true." "Then prove it," she shot back. "Because right now, I feel like I'm the only one trying to keep us together. And I'm tired, Mendeecees. I'm exhausted." There it was, the raw truth she had been holding back for months. And for a moment, he didn't say anything. He just stood there, silent. Then he finally sank down on the edge of the bed and whispered, "I don't know how to be who you need me to be anymore." That confession broke her heart and gave her clarity all at once. Because she realized then that they weren't fighting each other, they were fighting the versions of themselves they used to be. The couple who had survived so much, who had built a family, who had believed love could conquer everything. But people change. And sometimes love can't keep up with that change. They spent hours talking that night, more than they had in months. Mendeecees admitted that he felt like a stranger in his own life. That the pressure to live up to everyone's expectations had left him numb. Yandy admitted that she had been clinging to the past, trying to force him into the mold of who he used to be, instead of seeing who he had become by sunrise. They weren't magically fixed, but they were honest for the first time in a long time. And in that honesty, they made a painful but necessary decision to take a break. Not as a dramatic breakup. Not as enemies, but as two people who loved each other enough to stop destroying each other. They agreed to live separately for a while. To focus on healing individually instead of trying to patch up something that was crumbling from within. Yandy cried as she packed a bag and took the kids to her mother's house for a few weeks. Mendeecees stayed behind. The house suddenly quiet and hollow without their laughter. Quiet and hollow without their laughter. News of their separation hit the internet within hours. Blogs, gossip pages, and fan accounts flooded with speculation and think pieces. Some fans supported Yandy, praising her for choosing her peace. Others blamed Mendeecees, accusing him of taking her for granted. The noise was deafening, and for once, neither of them tried to defend themselves. They stayed silent, focusing on their own paths. During the weeks apart, something unexpected happened. Yandy started to breathe again. She spent time with her kids without the constant weight of trying to fix a broken marriage. She laughed more, slept better, and remembered what it felt like to just be Yandy, not a wife, not a fixer, just herself. Mendeecees, meanwhile, faced the silence he had been running from. Without the chaos of their arguments to distract him, he had to sit with his own emotions. He went to therapy alone, started journaling, and slowly began confronting the trauma he had buried from his time away. He realized how much he had been shutting her out, not because he didn't love her, but because he didn't know how to let her into the parts of him that were still hurting. After 6 weeks, they met up at a quiet park to talk. The conversation wasn't dramatic. There were no tears or shouting, no big reunion kiss. Just two people sitting on a bench talking honestly. "I don't know what the future looks like for us," Yandy said gently. "But I know I don't want to keep pretending everything's okay when it's not." Mendeecees nodded. "And I don't want to keep hurting you while trying to figure myself out. Maybe we need to start over. As friends first." It wasn't a happy ending, but it was a real one. They didn't promise to get back together. They didn't make declarations of forever, but they did promise to respect each other, to heal individually, and to see where life would take them once they were whole on their own. And maybe, just maybe, that honesty was the first real step toward saving what they had. It was meant to be saved. For now. They walked away from the edge of their breakup, not as lovers, not as enemies, But as two people choosing peace over pain, Yandy and Mendeecees may have stepped back from each other. But their journey isn't over yet. Do you think time apart will bring them closer again, or is this the beginning of the end? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next in their story.